they have gone forth with a good intention, but after going forth, they are not able to practice correctly. They still have a lot of greed, a lot of lust, a lot of anger, muddle-minded, scatterbrain, and all that. So the Buddha said, it's neither here or there. They're just like the wood from the funeral pyre. It is burned at both ends, and in the middle you have all the excrement. So you cannot use it as timber in the village to put up a house, and you cannot even use it in the forest to to make a fire. So in other words, you are neither a good lay person or a good monk. There are amongst these three kinds of unwholesome thoughts: sensual thoughts of ill will, thoughts of harming. And where monks do these three unwholesome thoughts cease without remainder? For one who dwells with the mind well established in the four satipatthana, the four intense states of recollection, or for one who develops the signless concentration. This is reason enough, monks, to develop the signless concentration. When the signless concentration is developed and cultivated, monks, it is of great fruit and benefit. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that the three kinds of unwholesome thoughts will cease without remainder when the mind is well established in the four satipatthana or in the signless concentration. Meaning to say, these two are quite equivalent. In the Satipatthana Samyutta that we will come to later, you will find that the Buddha says if a person practices Satipatthana correctly, he must attain samadhi, he must attain the jhanas, one-pointedness of mind. Also like remember Anuruddha, when they asked him what did he practice to get such great psychic power, he said the four satipatthana. So satipatthana is always equivalent to jhana. If you practice it correctly, it leads to jhana, it leads to samadhi. So here the Buddha says, or the signless concentration must be a very high state where there is no sign or no object. So it says this is a good reason to practice the signless concentration, because then all the unwholesome thoughts cease without remainder. There are amongst these two views, the view of existence or eternalism and the view of extermination or annihilationism. Therein monks, the learned noble disciple reflects thus: is there anything in the world that I could cling to without being blameworthy? He understands thus: there is nothing in the world that I could cling to without being blameworthy. For if I cling, it is only body that I would be clinging to, only feeling, perception, volition and consciousness that I would be clinging to. With that clinging of mind as condition, there would be being, bhava. With being as condition, birth, jati. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair would come to be. Such would be the origin of this whole mass of suffering. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, if we cling in the world, it means that we cling to this body and mind. And if we cling to the body and mind, then this being, I am, comes into existence. You have this concept or this perception that I am or I exist. And once you have the perception I exist, then you have birth. The moment you think you come into this world, that is your birth. And once you have birth, then you must have aging and sickening and dying and all kinds of suffering. What do you think, monks? Is body permanent or impermanent? Similarly, is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness permanent or impermanent? And they say impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Seeing thus, he understands, and then he becomes liberated. You see this last part, the Buddha always stresses this point. Are the five aggregates permanent or impermanent? And they always say impermanent. And then what is impermanent? A source of suffering or happiness? And they say suffering. So what is impermanent, suffering and subject to change? Why do you continue to cling to it as this is mine, this I am, this is myself? So when they realize this, and they let go and become liberated. So this teaching the Buddha gave to these monks as they came to him is like a wake-up call, telling them that you have taken up the ropes already. Don't be careless, don't be negligent, don't be lazy. If you are lazy, you are neither a good layman or a good monk. You are neither here or there. So also asking them to develop the four satipatthana or the signless concentration. Okay. 22.81. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Kosambi in Gosita's park. Then in the morning, the Blessed One dressed and taking bowl and robe, entered Kosambi for alms. When he had walked for alms in Kosambi and had returned from the alms round, after his meal, he set his lodging in order himself, his kuti, he put in order, took his bowl and robe, and without informing his personal attendants, without taking leave of the Bhikkhu Sangha, he set out on tour alone, without a companion. Let's stop here for a moment. This sutta shows that says that the Buddha was at Kosambi, and at that time the Kosambi monks split because of a big quarrel. The Sangha split into two factions. So there was a schism of the Sangha. It was a very serious thing, and the monks were behaving very badly towards each other, shouting and sometimes fighting with each other and all that. So the Buddha tried to tell them to stop the quarreling. He tried so many times, they refused to listen to him. So he finally got fed up. So he swept his kuti, put everything in order, then took his bowl and robe and left without informing the monks. Then not long after the Blessed One had departed, a certain monk approached the Venerable Ananda and told him, "Friend Ananda, the Blessed One has set his lodging in order himself, taken his bowl and robe, and without informing his personal attendants, without taking leave of the Bhikkhu Sangha, he has set out on tour alone, without a companion." Venerable Ananda said, "Friend, whenever the Blessed One sets out like that, he wishes to dwell alone. On such an occasion, the Blessed One should not be followed by anyone." Then the Blessed One, wandering by stages, arrived at Parileyaka. There at Parileyaka, the Blessed One dwelt at the foot of an auspicious sal tree. Let's stop here for a moment. There's a story here that when the Buddha went to this place to live, that the elephant and the monkey came to attend to the Buddha. They served the Buddha and all that. Don't know whether it's true or not, just a story. Then a number of monks approached the Venerable Ananda and exchanged greetings with him. And when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, they sat down to one side and said to the Venerable Ananda, "Friend Ananda, it has been a long time since we heard a Dhamma talk in the presence of the Blessed One. We should like to hear such a talk, friend Ananda." Stop here for a moment. These monks, they're supposed to be 500 monks who had just arrived after the Vasa. They wanted to see the Buddha and they found that he was not around. So they said they want to hear a Dhamma talk from the Buddha, and told Venerable Ananda, probably wanted Venerable Ananda to bring them to see the Buddha. Then the Venerable Ananda, together with those monks, approached the Blessed One at Parilayaka, at the foot of the auspicious sal tree. Having approached, they paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then instructed, exhorted, inspired, and gladdened those monks with the Dhamma talk. Now on that occasion, a reflection arose in the mind of a certain monk thus: how should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the asavas to occur? Stop here for a moment. So this monk was thinking, how can one know and see so that one can immediately become liberated, attain arahanthood and destroy the asavas. The Blessed One, having known with his own mind the reflection in that monk's mind, addressed the monks thus: Monks, this Dhamma has been taught by me discriminately. The 4 Satipatthanas have been taught by me discriminately. The 4 right efforts, the 4 basis of psychic power, iddhipada, the 5 spiritual faculties, indriya, the 5 powers, bala, the 7 factors of enlightenment, bojjhanga, the noble eightfold path, arya atangika magga, has been taught by me discriminately. Monks, in regard to the Dhamma that has been taught by me discriminately, a reflection arose in the mind of a certain monk thus: how should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the asavas to occur? And how, monks, should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the asavas to occur? I stop here for a moment. Just now the Buddha mentioned all these practices, the 4 Satipatthana, the 4 right efforts, iddhipada, the 4 samavayama, the 4 right efforts, and then the 4 iddhipada, the 5 indriya, the 5 bala, the 7 bojjhanga, the arya atangika magga, all these. If you add them up, these 4 and 4 and 4 and 5 and 5 and 7 and 8, they add to 37. They're called the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. And this is the core of the Buddha's teachings, because if you practice these things, they will lead to enlightenment. So the Buddha says that he has taught these things, and yet a certain monk is asking how to attain enlightenment. Then the Buddha continued: and how, monks, should one know, how should one see for the immediate destruction of the asavas to occur? Here, monks, the unlearned, ordinary person who does not see noble ones and is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma, who does not see superior persons and is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma, regards body as self. That regarding monks is a volition, sankhara. That volition, what is its source, what is its origin, from what is it produced, from what is it born? When the unlearned ordinary person is contacted by a feeling born of ignorance contact, craving arises. Hence that volition is born. Thus, monks, that volition is impermanent, condition, dependently arisen. That craving is impermanent, condition, dependently arisen. That feeling is impermanent, condition, dependently arisen. That contact is impermanent, condition, dependently arisen. That ignorance is impermanent, condition, dependently arisen. When one knows and sees thus, monks, the immediate destruction of the asavas occurs. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, an ordinary worldling, he regards the body as the self, and that is a volition. And then the Buddha says, when feeling arises, from contact, craving arises. If it's a pleasant feeling, there's a tendency to crave for present feelings. So that is how volition is born. But that volition is impermanent. And that volition comes from craving. Craving is also impermanent. That craving comes from feeling. The feeling also is impermanent. The feeling comes from contact, which again is impermanent, and the contact comes from ignorance.